You know, everyone, Gabe Velazquez here with you, transfertradsolutions.com on a Friday, 7th day, August. Very, very quiet markets after a uh, disappointing jobs number. The numbers came in less than expected, but the market, other than interesting reaction, which we'll get into in a second, I'm having a class next Thursday, 11 p.m. Pacific, pertaining to sentiment, VIX, and all that, since VIX is actually at an interesting level. Go ahead and sign up for that. There's a link below. I'll cover some interesting it's an interesting topic, and more importantly, I'll give you some actionable trading ideas there. Also, give me a thumbs up and some commentary in the chat. Let's go right into the charts here. You know, today the market's on an index basis, very, very quiet. Not a heck of a lot going on. Um, there is, the S&P is just kind of meandering at a new high. There's just not a lot to talk about. See if we can pull back down to where it broke out from. That's really the only thing you got to work with here. We got that big breakout. Typically we'll have a mean reversion type situation back to here. Maybe that's going to happen next week. We'll see. It's interesting that we're forming a lower high, but we have to confirm that with a lower low here. But other than that, not much there. And the Nasdaq still, level we've been talking about forever, hasn't been exceeded. This is also interesting. If it rolls over and breaks that low, that could be setting for maybe a pullback down to here, but very quiet. Lots of stuff going on below the surface, though, I have to tell you. I mean, NVIDIA broke out. Um, the metals I've already talked about. We were lucky enough in our group here. We bought AEM. We took a really nice profit on that. We bought that at 245 or so, and we just got out of it at around I'm sorry, 145, and we just got out of it around 180 this morning. So we took a really nice profit on that. Um, we also not have much on any of the other indexes other than, the Russell still can't break to a new high. Bitcoin just dead here. It will break out at some point. Maybe it's on the cusp of breaking out, but the longer it base is actually the better that's going to be for a breakout eventually to the upside. But for the moment, you can see there's not much happening. Yeah, VIX at 15 is interesting. I'll cover that in the class. Sign up for that. Rates really, even as weaker than expected jobs data with a negative print. You would have thought that rates would fall. They haven't. What actually the big move was when the dollar, it really fell off. Let's see if it can actually break below this 99.40. You can see it's holding right here. It's kind of at a real interesting kind of inflection point. And clearly, if it breaks down, this will probably continue to be a positive for all the currencies. Particularly, looking at the Mexican peso coming into some really interesting levels. And gold, as I mentioned, also at a very, uh, I would say, noteworthy inflection point around this 44.50. If the dollar turns back up again, I think we probably resume, come back in gold maybe to 4,200. But it is interesting that it's attempting to perk up here. Silver actually also looks pretty good right here. It did finally break out of this consolidation, and you can see it's also coming back. So um, still remains to be seen on these. You can play like we did, just these short-term moves on some of these. Copper all-time high. What copper tends to do, just as a little bullet point here, is it tends to make a new high and then pull back. That's generally what copper does. You can see it. Last time we made a new high, we pulled back. Last time we came up to the high, we pulled back, and it's happening again. But it still looks very bullish. We'll see. We've got stocks that we're looking at in that realm, RIO and SCCO and so forth. Oil, you know the story there. It's going to be another weekend. We'll see what happens with talks with Iran and all that Middle Eastern stuff. It's kind of just sitting in no man's land, really. Probably expect another gap, either up or down. If nothing materializes with the talks, we probably have another gap higher, but nothing really. Uh, Odds are, again, this really could go either way, um, depending on what happens over the weekend in the talks. And nat gas perking up a little bit. It's kind of just been meandering. Um, but I think the bottom line is you'd have to get some kind of movement up towards the 280 to $3, there's still that possibility we could probably go to 250. But you can see it's been just a very lackluster market, just kind of grinding lower, but nothing there. Grains, not much happening this week. Kind of just pulling back, almost like in sync with oils somewhat. And again, all the action's happening in the stock market. There's tons of movement in stocks, some up, some down. Um, that's really where we're focused because that's really where the opportunities are. If you want to find out some, I'll talk about that in the class. So go ahead and sign up for the class. In any event, have a great weekend, and we'll see next week. I don't think we have a lot of catalysts. We still have a bunch of earnings. The Fed's going to be in focus here with the unemployment numbers and all that. So, but nevertheless, there's still going to be plenty to do, plenty of opportunities. Uh, so go ahead and sign up for the class, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. Have a great weekend.